All right, and this morning we are shifting gears into discussing matters to do with the NACADA, alcohol use, and specifically the online use or online sale of alcohol during this COVID-19 pandemic. How is it? The rate, according to some information, according to the numbers there, the number of the demand of alcohol during this pandemic has grown, with most people going online to purchase alcohol and being delivered into their homes. But what is the adverse effect? What is the ripple effect of this, especially to our children? Well, this morning we'll be discussing this and much more. I'm joined by the CEO of NACADA, that is Victor Okioma. Karibu sana. And as we have this conversation, remember you can head over to Twitter, tag us at KBC Channel 1, at NACADA Kenya, at Ram Aguko, and the hashtag, as always, is Good Morning Kenya. Well, this discussion starts now. Keep texting, keep tweeting. We are also live on Facebook and on our website at www.kbc.co.ke. So, Mr. Okioma, so let's start with an overview of the situation of alcohol consumption during this COVID-19 pandemic, from your perspective as NACADA.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to Kenyans on this matter. As you are aware, when the COVID containment measures were released by government, one of the things that was done was to close the bars. And therefore, you would expect that consumption will automatically go down because the bars are closed.
Yeah.
A number of the entertainment joints also were closed, and therefore, as from our perspective, that was supposed to have brought down the level of consumption.
You would expect that it will go down.
That is what one would expect.
Yeah.
But our observations is different. The observations we have made, and generally the findings that we have made, is that people have devised other ways of accessing their drinks. And the trends in the online, market for alcohol has actually tremendously grown. When you talk to people running wines and spirits shops, they are confessing they have not done that kind of business before. That tells you that, of course, they close the bars, but they are drinking, and one will ask, where are this drinking going on?
Did this come as a surprise for you when you look at how now people started now ordering drinks online, and even we have bars that are still working past the curfew hours?
Yes, that is true. That's true. I would say it came as a surprise to us because when we were expecting that people would go back home and stay home and work from home, bars are not there, and therefore we immediately did not think that this would be the case.
Yeah.
But now, from observation, we realize that actually people have shifted the bars to their homes. People are grouping together somewhere. Others are drinking in the bars late after the close hours.
Some have bars inside their homes.
Yeah, some have bars inside their homes. Some are drinking in the vehicles. So really, I would say that the drinking is still going on.
Would you say that the measures put by government, especially when it comes to this, closing down the bars, closing down all these, joints that people go to get alcohol, were the measures null and void, considering the current stand?
I wouldn't say they were null and void. If you figure out that a lot of the entertainment joints that used to attract a number of our young people, they were closed. They are not there. You would find some of these joints attracting in excess of 200-300 young people,
per day
making. Yeah, they are not. They are no longer functioning. A lot of the bars, if you know some of them, you find they are crowd pullers. Very many people gather together in these drinking, joints. And therefore, I would say the closure of bars and entertainment joints has greatly,
It has helped.
a great deal. The online sales that we're talking about is really not that much as compared to if, for example, these joints were operating normally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really helped a lot.
Now you've spoken about the minors, and I would like us to touch on that briefly. When one orders alcohol, because now people are going to order these alcoholic drinks online, what will be the ripple effect of this, especially when it comes to minors, and what are the pre-exposing factors that they are considering that all these ordered drinks online are delivered physically to their homes?
As an authority, we have issues about online sale of alcohol. One, you don't know who is ordering because you make your call and it's delivered. It can be delivered anywhere. So there is a possibility that the young people are also involved in ordering this drink online. And when the motorbike person delivers, it doesn't care whether you are of age or not.
So his work is to deliver.
It's to deliver. And therefore, we also have information that the young people are involved in this online sale. The other concern as an authority that we have is the fact that when you order this drink, you do not know whether, you can't vouch for its quality.
You cannot be able to do any quality check.
To ascertain where it's coming from. As an authority, we have carried a number of what I would call multi-agency raid inspections, where you find working with the KEBS, working with the public health authorities, and Kenya Revenue Authority and the police. We go around and try to inspect. And what has come out is that there's a lot of actually uncertified alcohol in the market. So when you find online sales of alcohol, you can't say whether that drink is safe or not.
Now,
so we have issues around the online sale of alcohol.
So people need to be careful even as they order all these alcoholic drinks online.
If you went to a shop and you know this shop where it is certified, the inspection has been carried out, they have the KEBS stamps, you can say this is safe alcohol. But the one that you order online, you don't know from where, and some motorbike man delivers it. How would you vote for that for that drink?
Now there is a reason why we call this an honest discussion. We are talking about alcohol, alcohol use and these drinks. Meaning this pertains you, who is an alcohol user or a buyer of alcohol. What questions do you have and what comments do you have? Remember to engage with us even as we have this discussion with the CEO of NACADA. But now, you've been doing inspections. You said earlier that you're doing inspections. How fruitful has it been? Considering that we have even people transporting this from one region to the next, yet we have this lockdown. Some are hiding them and some are trying to get illegal alcoholic consumption. So you have brews that were also acquired, that were acquired during this pandemic, that people managed to get, and some even died.
Yeah, of course, that is one of our biggest problems that we have in the country. We have alcohol that sometimes even comes from out of the country, in Uganda, in Ethiopia, crossing the border, comes in. We also have people who do their own brewing behind their houses, behind their shops. That sort of alcohol, you can't know how, it doesn't have standard. So this is what we call some very dangerous alcohol. And we have had cases where people have tried some brews and have had problems. Others have died, lost their lives. So when we carry out our inspection, we do not do it as NACADA alone. We do it together with the other agencies.
You partner with people?
We partner with agencies that are mandated to inspect certain aspects of safety. For example, KEBS. They will say this alcohol has our stamp, so we can vote for it's safe. Right? We work with other agents like Kenya Revenue Authority, who's interested really whether they're paid or not. But with public health, sometimes the premises where this alcohol is sold Sometimes it's not a place where you expect people to be, drinking
Buying or
from,
drinking
because
from.
it's not healthy. It's not they have some bad places where you find the health standards. You really do not allow this. So when we do it with the other agencies, they look at these aspects. And what we have come up with from these inspections is the finding that a lot of alcohol that is in the market, we have a lot of counterfeit alcohol in the market, which is doesn't have any standard, we don't even know where it's coming from, and therefore this is what really is our biggest challenge in the industry. A lot of fake alcohol, a lot of uncounted alcohol that we don't know where it's coming from. Yeah, so this is what sometimes has been responsible for some of the deaths that you hear in the market. Yeah,
I remember some were caught inside a bar.
Yes.
During this COVID-19, and it was during curfew hours, where we had a bar that some bars that were opened during curfew hours, contrary to these pandemic restrictions that have been put by government.
But that is what you see every other time. Police have cracked into some bars closed, and there are many people inside. It's the way people are coping with these containment measures.
But how predisposing can this be towards the children in terms of the effect it has on the families that are at home and on the children that are left at home?
Of course, one of the biggest problem we now have, and really I want to appreciate that you have given us opportunity to engage with our parents, is the whole question of drinking in the presence of children. This time with the containment measures, parents are supposed to be home, children are at home. It is an opportunity to bond
and to care
and really to monitor the growth of the young people.
You even know each other properly.
You know each other better because, of course, you would appreciate that sometimes by virtue of how we work, some people do not even come home in good time.
Yeah.
And therefore, this is an opportunity to be home early, to be able to learn each other and bond. But the drinking at home culture is something that we are concerned as an authority. In fact, my colleague Susan has been on this studio talking about the positive parenting. Positive parenting is basically that you are home with the child, and what kind of role model are you to the child? When you drink, what value are you giving to the drinking?
Yeah.
And
because they copy these things.
Yes, we have cases where people have, they invite friends into their home, and children are learning there, and they want to concentrate, but the adults are drinking and merrymaking. So this is our concern as an authority, and we have actually been speaking about this.
When it comes to promotions and advertising of alcohol and alcoholic content online, we have had promotions and the sale of these drinks, but I'm looking at the Alcoholic Drink Control Act of 2010 and the Children's Act. Do these things infringe on these laws and on the specific acts that I've mentioned?
Well, of course, the Alcoholic Drinks Control Act, mandates the authority to, vet the promotions. And we have, in the authority, we have a committee which actually deals with the vetting of the promotional materials. And we have had cases where we have rejected several of those applications because they tend to give false information about alcohol, right? You may have come across some adverts which make alcohol like once you take it, you're braver than a lion, for example. Or that you become more Kenyan if you take alcohol. Those kind of things.
Exaggeration of.
Those are some of the things that, as an authority, and through that committee which we have, we vet. But occasionally you find a few of these adverts which snake out, and we have had to take action on when we see there are adverts which are giving false information. So when you are when you are doing that kind of promotion and the young people are there,
they are watching.
What values are you giving them?
Because they will want to be as strong as a lion.
As strong as a lion.
Or more Kenyan.
Or more Kenyan, right? Yeah. Or you make friends more easily if you take Tusker. That kind of thing. So we are very strict in terms of promotions. That do not, do not give the correct information through those adverts.
Now, we've touched on the situation of this alcohol consumption during this COVID-19 pandemic, but let's touch on this before the pandemic, because I would like to know from you, what was the drug and substance abuse situation, the numbers, the situation before the COVID-19 pandemic struck the country? How was it?
Well, I think it is, but the country has always had an issue with alcohol and drug abuse. And we as an authority carry regular surveys. 2018, we did a national survey on the situation of drug abuse in the country. And I would say, if you went to our website, you find those figures. They are not very encouraging figures. On average, about 12.2% of Kenyans have, the regular users of alcohol.
And I remember, according to your survey, you say that Nairobi region was, or is leading in the prevalence of the current usage of alcohol at 17.5%.
Yes, that's
followed by Eastern.
When you now go region by region, right?
Yes.
The figures will be different, but nationally, it's about 12%. But
12.2%.
Yes, 12.2%. If you went to the coast region, you would find tobacco and the hard drugs are leading. We went to northeastern, you would find something else. But on average, I think the alcohol still continues to be the biggest challenge that we have to face as a country. It's responsible for the highest burden of what you call substance use disorders. Alcohol, followed by tobacco. Miraa. But when we did the survey targeting secondary schools, and really our point was to try and find out the general population. This is how the situation looks like. Let's find out how it manifests itself in secondary schools. The situation was worrying. 23% of the students have had a test of one or the other, and a regular use of 3.8%. That tells you that the schools are not safe environments for students. How do they access it? And they are in school.
It's a wonder.
that is it. Yeah, the teachers.
Could there be a weak link somewhere?
Yes, there's
someone as young as 15.
Yes,
accessing alcohol.
Yes. In fact, we have also done a survey that is targeting primary. We released it last year in June.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you looked at those figures, they are in our website. You would be surprised that somebody at the age of 11 has already been initiated to alcohol. That tells you that as a country, the situation is not interesting.
You released something, the survey mid last year.
Yes.
And on the status of drugs and substance abuse amongst primary pupils in Kenya.
Yes.
And the survey, you covered over 3,000 pupils from 177 primary schools.
Yes.
And it's interesting that according to the findings, the most widely available drugs and substance abuse mentioned by the primary school pupils were tobacco, being 41.9%, followed by prescription drugs, alcohol and miraa.
Prescription drugs are a big challenge. In fact, in both secondary schools and primary, prescription drugs are the biggest substance of abuse in the primary schools. And in secondary schools, of course, there's alcohol, there's tobacco. But what of concern is the abuse of prescription drugs. And the question one will want to ask is, the prescription drugs that actually are abused are some of the substances that are controlled. You cannot access them. The asthma, for example, even Valium, you can't access it. You have to get a doctor's prescription. So the question is, why is the link a weak link? The weak link is in control, right?
How do they get?
How do they access it? And
the
this cannot be
prescriptions
accessed. Are you saying that a doctor in his right senses would have prescribed that sort of drug?
Would it be that
for a primary school student?
misinformation?
Well, I think we have to work around the control, and here pharmacists, because they are the ones who have these pharmacies, where these drugs are supposed to be controlled. So how they get out of this, I think, is an issue that we need to start discussing and trying to address it. But the prescription drugs, as I've said, is a matter of great concern to us as an authority, because it's very easy to access it. It's a tablet. You just pick it and put it in your pocket.
And then you take it as you wish.
As you wish.
My concern is also drawn to tobacco. Bang. You know, the survey showed that bang is the most widely used narcotic drug in Kenya. But now, the pupils in primary, 41.9% mentioned tobacco. 41.9%. That's how did you look? What would you say concerning these statistics? How did it come out for you? Considering bang and tobacco should not be accessed by primary pupils.
Actually, that is where our concern is. In Kenya, the most widely abused narcotic is bang, right? Currently, we have very, very huge, traffic bang laws from Ethiopia.
Yeah.
A lot of the bang that is now currently being abused in the country is coming from Ethiopia through Moyale, Wajir, and finds its way to Nairobi. Right? Tobacco, of course, is readily available. The issue is, how does it find its way to the primary schools and the secondary schools?
Have you been able to try to find out how pupils and students in primary and secondary respectively can be able to get access to these substances?
It is trafficked by actually the survey will give you the answers to that question. The survey says the teachers trafficked.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not saying it's all the teachers, but there are bad elements within that cadre.
Yeah.
The staff, whether they are the subordinate staffs that interact with the students, they actually are. The kiosks that are around the schools are sources of most of the drugs into the schools. You will recall the case of, was it the boy girls?
Yes.
You remember the connection between the kiosks that were there and the drug menace.
And the students who
and
were
I
able to access.
can tell you, if you went around the country in many of those schools, there will be a kiosk either inside or just outside.
There's something always similar to that scenario.
Yes, and those are actually the sources of those drugs.
But now, as NACADA, what are you doing to be able to bring solutions towards these challenges that you're mentioning?
As NACADA, of course, we run the campaign, awareness campaign. We call it public education and advocacy, including talking to the school management that they need to be aware about the environment of the schools. But of course, besides running the campaign, which is basically creating awareness, we also carry out, other engagements. Like, of course, when we have a survey that reveals that we have this kind of inflow of traffic from Ethiopia, we have been engaging with the administrative authority, the security authorities of those counties, right?
Yeah.
But our main, and I would say broadly speaking, NACADA, we are focused on demand reduction effort, where demand reduction is through the campaign and creating awareness so that we can reduce
on supply.
the demand for it. So a lot under that, we have a lot of programs that we carry out. We have the school-based program where we engage with schools. Under that program of public education and awareness, we also engage with the communities. We engage with parents. The positive parenting, actually, that Susan has been talking about here, is one of our key programs under the public education program.
And for those who may not know, Susan is someone that we have been having this consistent constant conversations with on this show.
Public education, and therefore that is really her main program.
Yeah, so she's Susan Maua, the acting manager in charge of public education and advocacy. Make sure that you head over to our YouTube channel to get more of these interviews that we've had in regards to positive parenting that we've had before a few weeks ago.
Yeah. So all these activities I'm talking about, they are focused, they are trying to target the demand, the demand side of the equation. Then we have, of course, we also have, the work environment and not also safe environment in terms of drug abuse.
But now, Mr. Okioma, where there is demand, there is supply.
Yes.
Yeah? Or where there is supply, there is demand.
Actually, what I'm focusing on is what we do to deal with the demand. You know, if I tell you cigarette is bad and you stop, I've addressed the demand issue, right? Because then people get to know the dangers of the drugs, and therefore you will reduce the demand for it. But we don't stop there. I was talking about the pillars of our activities.
What makes people want it?
Yes, what makes people want it, address it. But then we also have the supply suppression side. Under the supply suppression, here now we are dealing with the supply. And in the supply, of course, we have a number of agencies that we work with, and the national administration, the security committees, the anti-narcotic police.
Yeah.
We work very closely. In fact, the anti-narcotic is a member of our board. So we work very closely with these security operators to deal with the supply side. Like I have talked about the issues we are addressing from the supply of bangi from Ethiopia, from Tanzania side. A lot of the bank we have around is coming from there. Of course, the operations I've talked about, which we carry out to ensure that the alcohol that we have in the market is safe, that is also an enforcement issue. That is an issue of supply. Because you get those people who are producing alcohol that is not really, that doesn't have standards.
It's not good for human consumption.
Not good for human consumption. If you get it out of the market, you are dealing with the supply. So I'm saying, as NACADA, our focus is on those two pillars. We deal with the demand reduction issue. We also deal with the supply.
But now, speaking of dealing with demand and supply, talk about dealing with now Kenyans who are adults, who they know about how alcohol can be. But now you mentioned speaking with the school authorities. We're talking about the teachers, the staff, and the subordinate staff. Now these are Kenyans whom at the same time you'll be able to find the same Kenyans brewing changa, sitting together, even during curfew hours. What would you say in regards to this, how challenging it can be to create this public awareness for everyone to be able to understand all this and the effects it can have on them and their children, considering these are adults at the same time who are working with children both at home and at school?
I would say the drug challenge in this country requires the response from each one of us. This is not a war you are going to leave to NACADA or anybody else. And one of the things we do is to try and sensitize all those stakeholders that we think are very important in trying to pass some of these messages. Like when we deal with the board of management in schools, they should trigger them to start looking at how the staff that they have deployed in their institutions, how they are involved, and try to deal with their involvement. And therefore, really for us, the challenge is getting every Kenyan to be able to police, we police each other. Because if you are a parent in a school and you know that the drug is you are a teacher, you are a parent, and you are also involved. What do you do with this kind of person?
Now, speaking of policing,
yes,
let's bring NACADA.
I'm not talking about the policeman,
we are not
the man in blue. I'm talking about all of us being able to police ourselves. You know this person is selling bangi. Just to be the policeman for that community. That's what I'm talking about.
Now, being the policeman of a community, let's talk about government.
Yes.
How are you partnering with the government, both in the national and the county level, to be able to bring solutions, and I'm talking about sustainable solutions in regards to all these challenges?
By the way, we are a national government agency. And I have already mentioned that we work with very many other agencies.
Yes.
In the campaigns that we carry out. We have also worked very, very closely with some counties in trying to, if you check the current constitution, drug control, including licensing of bars and restaurants, has been devolved to the counties. So we have really given out these responsibilities of drug control to the counties. And the issue is, how have counties taken up this challenge and this responsibility? That's where we have concerns.
Okay.
We have been engaging with many of them, and we have actually seen a lot of improvement in trying to take up these responsibilities. We know many counties have not really focused on this responsibility, because we expect that the campaigns that we are carrying now, they should be carried out by the county government, because they have been given that mandate by the Constitution. We expect them to put up rehabilitation facilities for their people who are affected by drug abuse.
Which I'm aware you've tried to support 10 counties.
Yeah, we have supported them as a way of engaging them to try and be proactive about this mandate which has been given to them. We have challenges around that area, but I can tell you that we have seen a lot of improvement with those counties that we have partnered in the rehabilitation facilities. And we have seen some counties actually set aside funds to support certain programs, but there are a few. I can say that is one area we will continue to engage. That is an area that we actually need to work very closely with the counties, so that the counties are able to take up this challenge.
Do you see most counties coming up positively to take up this challenge? And will you think that these measures, coming up with treatment and rehabilitation facilities and working with the county governments, bearing fruit?
For using the examples that we have seen
in the long term,
in the long term, I see, because really it's their mandate.
Yeah.
It is clearly stipulated in the fourth schedule, which assigns responsibilities, and indeed, those ones who have already taken up, I think we are going to use them as role models for the rest of the other counties. Because I can tell you there are others who are now very proactive and they have taken up this responsibility. They are putting up. We have just come from Nyeri. They have done a very, very good facility there. In Teni, they have done a very good facility. In Kwale, you go there in Kompani. So we have seen those ones that we have worked with and engaged. They have come to actually, they have started taking up these responsibilities. And my appeal is that counties need to take up this, because it's a mandate.
That's your appeal to the counties?
That is my
appeal.
It is, let them take up. It is clearly spelled out in the Constitution, in the Schedule 4, that the drug control and licensing, and you know the control comes from the licensing.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, and what we have observed actually in the last, since the handing over of this function, the mushrooming of bars and restaurants, with the revenue as the major consideration, and not the safety and the health of their people. And part of this engagement is to tell them that really, when you issue a license,
it should be the opposite.
It should be the opposite. And I can tell you there are a few best examples of counties that I have worked with where they have demonstrated that once there were 2,000, they cut it to something like half of that.
Thereby bringing to positive.
Yes.
I love that.
And the tool they have to do that is the licensing mandate. You have restaurants which are being licensed and they do not pass for a restaurant, so long as they are paid. We have bars which are licensed in areas where it's not even safe.
But they should not be
Where they should not be. You have bars in residential areas where there should be no bars. We have bars in near schools where there shouldn't be. So what we are saying is that if you exercise this mandate judiciously, you can cut down the number of these bars, and that is also a control.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is. Now, these are that's your plea to the county government.
That is my plea to the county.
What will be
and I am happy to say I have seen a lot of improvement with the counties that we have worked with.
Okay. Before I ask my next question, because I want to find out, that is your appeal to the county government. I want to find out also your appeal to the Kenyans. But before we talk about that, you mentioned something just briefly.
Yes.
Which county governments would you say that have really worked well in delivering what you are trying to push for?
Well, I can tell you that, and this is not about good and bad. No,
it's not about good and bad.
Yeah, this is about the counties that have actually demonstrated.
Yes.
Others we are still going to be engaging. And I have talked about Nyeri. I've talked about Elgeyo Marakwet. I have talked about Kwale.
We cannot mention them all, but those are
about the Taveta, where we have worked. So they are quite, the Kisi, we still are engaging with Bomet. But what I'm saying in a nutshell is this, that the function of drug control, particularly through the licensing mandate, is a mandate of the counties, and we are appealing to them to take it up,
Now, what would be your appeal now to Kenyans now? Now, let's trickle down to the family.
Kenyans, of course, the biggest role for drug control in this country is Kenyans themselves, right? If we take a decision that bangi is bad for our life, and we all say, let us not encourage bangi in our own environment, that is a very big thing that they can't. The sovereignty lies with the people. Yes. If the people, and I give examples of a village somewhere in Kijabe, you know Kijabe?
Yeah, I know Kijabe.
Go to Kijabe, there is no single bar there, and it has been a tradition for a long time. The community there decided, if you want to drink, you go out of this place and do it there. There is no bar, as we are talking now.
You'll make me go
and
visit
those
there.
You just go and check. Yeah. And that's for a long, long time.
For a long time.
I know communities have said we do not want this number, and we are encouraging counties, as they license new premises, they should subject their licensing to the, they should ask whether the people really want more of those bars before they get licensed. And we say public participation, it means that the people should have a say.
There needs to be a survey before a bar is erected in a neighborhood.
And we have seen that. In fact, even I think, was it Kiambu that was saying we cannot license a bar unless the people have said yes. So they do not need to be asked by anybody. They should say, we do not want the bar here. We do not want this bar is near to our school. So the people have actually the bigger role for drug control in this country than any one of us.
But I wonder how possible that can be in some places where we are. You saw in the news when we had people getting arrested for being caught locking themselves inside a bar.
Yes.
Then I wonder, is this statement that you're giving going to be applicable, and how effective can it be to sensitize Kenyans to implement such kind of a thing?
By the way, you might find that the people who were arrested in that bar, somewhere may have given that report to the police. that is their role. They can control it that way. And I know cases where people have said there is something strange happening here. There is a big crowd of young people here drinking in some residence or in some other joint. So the people have a role to play in drug control.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, because time is not on our side, I'd like you to maybe touch on one more thing. When it comes to combating counterfeit alcohol, alcoholic substances in the country, how far are we and how far do we need to go?
Well, that is a big challenge. I must confess, that's a big challenge. And we have quite a number of institutions that should be able to handle that. And we work with them. One of it is, of course, the Anti-Counterfeit Authority.
Yeah.
That's a big mandate. We work together. But of course, you need to be able to say, and even the person, the industries, or if it's the breweries whose product has been counterfeited, they should come forward and say, we have this brand here is our counterfeit. So we are saying that actually in the country we have a serious problem of counterfeiting. And you have seen, for example, the Ministry of Trade has been having a task force that has been going around actually looking at counterfeit, not necessarily within the alcohol sector, but even in the industry. And it is huge. The other time it was 1.2-something billion worth of goods that were seized as counterfeit. And it has been going on. In the alcohol sector, that is also a big challenge. We have a lot of counterfeit alcohol in the market. And what we do is we sometimes work with other agencies, the Counterfeit Authority, Kenya Bureau of Standards. As we go around, you are able to find out some of these issues. The biggest success story would be when those people whose products are being counterfeited can come and report. It becomes much easier to control that kind of problem.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That is Victor Okioma, the CEO of NACADA. Thank you very much for finding time to join me this morning.
Thank you very much.
And as we continue this morning conversation, remember to keep tweeting, keep texting. We're taking a short break. We'll be back in a bit.